You can always just say Dwayne, and then back to your last name. Or read it. Okay. I don't want to ruin this metal.
Must be close to one. Everybody's getting quiet.
I think we told him he didn't.
By the way,
Another fourth member.
that's a record.
What?
That's a record. I think 3 is the most I've ever hit.
I know, I kind of figured that. That's okay. All right. There. Okay. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Is or not?
Record.
He's here. We thought he was. Back to the school. So
Oh, boy.
Not for my kid.
No.
Busy.
Well, we all have. You didn't want to go to school.
Okay.
All my kids have changed us back to making it.
I wish we could get rid of it. Seven.
Yeah.
Eight,
High school
yeah.
stuff. Sometimes.
No, you know, the mom ran away.
There's
With a metal. You should like 4 weeks for
this meeting.
Psychologist.
Dude, I had him.
Struggle a little bit.
Big. Every day. You could go ahead and do
Yeah.
the binder now.
What's that?
The binder on speaker shit.
That's
I bought him so he can drive. So I don't have to drive in the school.
Just a reminder, if there's anybody in the audience that hasn't filled out a speaker slip yet and would like to speak, they are at the podium. If you wouldn't mind taking care of that at this time, that'd be really helpful. I think everybody has. There we go. Great. Okay, well, we can get started. Okay, we will call to order the meeting of Rainbow Municipal Water District Special Board Meeting Tuesday, January 6, 2026. Can we get a roll call, please?
President Irvine,
Here?
Vice President Mack,
Here.
Director Hamilton,
Here.
Director Townsend Smith,
Here.
Director Hoffman.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Great. Item 3, let's pledge our allegiance to this great country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America.
to the republic
Which is stands
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible.
for liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving to item 4, additions, deletions, amendments to the agenda. Do I have any additions or deletions from the board? Seeing none, I would move approval of the agenda. Looking for a second.
Second.
I believe second by Director Hamilton. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Move to public comment. It looks like I have all speakers on item 7 with the exception of one. Looks like we got another one. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and read the comment. Any persons may address the board at this time upon any subject not identified on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of Rainbow Municipal Water District. However, any matter that requires action will be referred to staff for report and action at a subsequent board meeting. As to matters on the agenda, if a request is made to make a public comment and is received, an opportunity will be given to address the board when that matter is considered. Members of the public may make comments in person or by submitting a speaker slip to the board secretary virtually or virtual or teleconference options, or by submitting an email to the board secretary no later than midnight on the day before the meeting. Comments shall be made in an orderly manner, and profanity, slander, abusive language, which is disruptive to the meeting, will not be tolerated. Individuals will have a 3-minute time limit to make comments and will have the opportunity when called upon by the presiding officer. So at this time, I will call up speakers. I just asked the board during public comment if speakers could speak freely without interruption, allow them their time that they have to make their comments. And when public comment is over, we close public comment, bring it back to the board. We would ask for that same courtesy in return. First speaker up, we have Mr. Jim Kozak.
Sir, we also have two public members online that would like to speak.
Okay, and you have those names?
I believe McGaska and a gentleman with the name of Michael.
Just, that's it. Okay. Mr. Kozak,
Just to clarify, I'm on item 7. Is
okay.
that correct? I thought
Correct.
you had somebody else other than item 7.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I think what we'll do is officially we will open item 7, discussion of standing committee organization. So we're now on that agenda item, so.
Okay, great. Thank you. I serve on the Communications and Customer Service Committee and have been for about a year. I didn't need another job. I'm fully employed and I'm president of actually a homeowners association in Fallbrook that has 80 homeowners that are ratepayers for a municipal water district. So I get a lot of feedback from that position, but I can understand the desire maybe by some board members to, having read the agenda packet, of trying to streamline things. In my basically close to a year serving on the committee, we've had very little public participation in our process when we held our committee meetings. But I think it was important that being selected by the board and approved by the board made a commitment where I committed to you that I would show up at the meetings, I would participate fully. So it creates a little higher level of commitment than just being a member of the public. And I think that's important because you are getting that buy-in from other people that are interested. The other thing that I think is important in terms of the long range progression of the district is committees can be a very effective tool at training people for future board positions because they become familiar with the district and some of its policies. And if you were to eliminate that type of commitment, I don't think you'd get the same participation and knowledge base to draw from for future board members. So that's another thing to consider as you're considering possibly streamlining or eliminating these committee meetings from the current process. There's an old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I found that we've been able to achieve some pretty good results in the committee that I've been working on with my fellow committee members, and appreciate interacting with some of the board member representatives that have been participating in the committees, as well as staff. It's a very effective tool in terms of opening up communication lines and participating. So in that regard, I would strongly suggest you consider keeping the committee structure the way it is, and keep things moving in a positive direction, because I think there have been some very good results from the Communications and Customer Service Committee. So thank you for your time and allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Kozak. Next up, I can't read the last name, but Dwayne, I'm sorry.
Yep. Good afternoon. Let me wish everybody, at least to start, a happy, prosperous, and healthy new year, and good luck addressing the issues in front of this district going forward. I've participated in the committee meetings and the like. I don't have any necessarily objection to the existing structure, but typically in my experience, what I've seen is usually one board member with the other public members in the committee, perhaps having as a hybrid 2 board members attending as a possibility to get, again, more boots on the ground would be an effective or potential compromise. I like the concept, but again, if I can take a minute or two recap my mission, because I haven't been here for a few months. I've been working on some other issues. My biggest concern is what's going on with the water policies and pricing related to agriculture in this district. And frankly, even Fallbrook, Public Utility District as well. And if I can recap this, I handed this out in a prior meeting, so I didn't want to make copies and hand it out again. But it was the town meeting joint town meeting between Fallbrook Public Utility District and Rainbow District before the de-annexation. And it highlights, and this is from Rainbow and FPD, the main driver of the action, the loss of agriculture use that hits FPD and Rainbow harder. The next page highlights the massive loss of agriculture as, again, being an underlying reason and rationale from switching out of the water authority to Eastern Municipal. Below, it indicates that the other rationale is economic. The 30% less cost that would be derived by the de-annexation from the water authority to Rainbow Water. So all of that was good. And people like myself and Rick Carey, several other growers, were heavily involved with LAFCO in supporting the de-annexation because as farmers, we needed water and rate relief. And this seemed to be a good opportunity to provide overall rate relief, not only to the farmers, but obviously the other users, commercial, industrial, residential users as well. What happened though, after the de-annexation was approved on the agricultural segment in Rainbow, is that in January, the rates for agriculture and larger meters went up significantly. That to me is very disingenuous that we use agriculture as the baseline for de-annexation. And then when we de-annex, we punish agriculture. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. For those existing board members that were here with the prior CFO, he put together a detailed presentation on the loss of agricultural water sales over the last decade, which has been significant. There's been like over 60% loss of water sales in the Rainbow Water District. It's counterintuitive to need water sales, more sales, okay? Jack the price up on agriculture, the main driver of water, to try and achieve that result. My point being is that you can't have lower units with a fixed overhead being spread out over fewer units and expect the cost to go down. Our overhead here in the district doesn't stay, static. It increases over time. That means if you have the same number of units, your cost per unit goes up. That affects everybody.
Dwayne, just as a courtesy to all the other speakers that are waiting in line, we did have a 3-minute limit. So if you could figure out a way to
That
finish up.
yeah, no worries.
Thank you.
So no matter how you structure the committees, it's been 2 years and we've had no changes in the agriculture water rate policy. We keep having farms going out of production and we're hurting all of our farms. We're hurting residential users because they're impacted by this as well, and we're hurting the community. So whatever formation you have in the committee, we need to get a focus on water rates and policy. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Dwayne. Perhaps we'll have one of the speakers that are on Zoom want to speak. We could call on Mr. Goska.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. Let's see, I wanted to highlight that our district is an exception to the rule. It's not what's done in other districts. Over the years, I haven't been able to find another district in San Diego that operates the committees the way we do. I've asked at conferences, CSDA conference. I've asked at the CAWU meeting when I have an opportunity to interface with other directors. Let's see. it's the first time I've ever seen a committee set up where there's a balance between the ratepayers' input on an ongoing basis and the directors, okay? And I guess we could be the same as every other district and deal with the issues that they have, the way they operate. Um, uh, I would, if I had known about this when I sat on my board in Running Springs up in San Bernardino County, I'd have implemented this because it actually provides pretty good cover for the directors to be able to state that all the actions that are taken were reviewed and recommended by ratepayers first. And that's pretty unique, okay? Like I said, there's nobody around that does that. And that's exceptional. I'm kind of wondering about the suggestion from what I read that it would open things up for more ratepayers, because as the previous speaker spoke, I mean, I know I've struggled whenever I've tried and get additional people in to get on the committees. So I'm not sure that that's going to happen, but perhaps it will if everybody goes out and tries to buttonhole somebody to join. Let's see. As far as the work for the staff, the committee actually helps refine the work of the staff by redlining and suggesting items that have been missed. If the committee's capability is diminished or it goes away, then what actually will happen is the board will take the action upon initial review and then send it back to the staff. And so there will actually be a slowdown in the progression of effort because it'll be at a follow-on meeting that the board will finally make its determination. I guess the final statement I'll make is, in the end, what the board will do is rack and stack the pros and the cons, and there are, I'm sure, cons. If you haven't addressed this individually with all the committee members, I could expect that there may be some committee members that decide they don't want to participate, in which case that's a detrimental consequence. But you rack and stack it and you take the vote, and that's the determination you make. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gaska. Next, well, we do have one other speaker online. I believe I was just given the name Michael. Do we have Michael on Zoom? Okay.
Allow him to talk.
Apparently not. Okay. Then we have we'll call up Mr. Bill Stewart.
Hello, everybody. And Happy New Year to you all. My journey with the committees started 10 years ago. I retired. I was looking for some way to give back to Fallbrook. I love living here. I love the agricultural nature of our community. I love that it was balanced in that way, that families were important, and that this was a unique place. And I sought an opportunity to, give my time back to some issue that would, or some things that would, where it could be made useful. And so it happened that at the time, FBUD was attempting to take over Rainbow Water District. they had filed with LAFCO to do so. And why? Well, this district had had 50 general managers in 50 years. There's actually a document that lists them. Mostly cousins, you know, uncles, aunts, I mean, whatever. It was nepotistic. It was the worst managed district in the state by all measure. So bad that the insurance company that was formed by Aqua to help, you know, lower the cost of insurance for all of the 2,000 agencies in California blackballed us. They said, you're so out of control that we don't even want to offer you insurance. That's just, and many other things were going on. Well, the board at the time hired Tom Kennedy. It was a brilliant move. Tom came on board, and he, first thing he did was to begin developing a plan to stop the vote to approve our annexation by LAFCO, by our fellow water district. But he also got very involved in recruiting people for the committees. And the committees at the time were, if they even existed, were very, very low key type of thing. And Tom went out, and a few were already there, but we went out and found some very, very qualified engineers and packed the engineering committee with that kind of expertise, and then moved on to the other committees trying to find people. When he sent out a letter talking about the fact that there was a opening on the board in District 4, I thought, you know, maybe I could help the board. And so I submitted a letter along with a dozen other people seeking an appointment. No, I'm sorry. Okay, the bottom line is, for those of you who don't know, that's my background. I ended up being selected by the board, served a year, went up for election, elected to the 2-year balance of that term. And then 2 or 3 years after that 3-year stint, I was appointed again to the board and served another 2 years. So about 5 years altogether. All of that time, I served on the Communications Committee. We added customer service to that committee early on because we had the worst customer service organization I've ever seen. I managed large planned communities. I had communities with as many property owners as 25,000 in a 6,500 unit project in Northern California. And I've had them for, you know, varying sizes, but from 10 to 25,000, where we had to create a customer service organization. That committee has done miracles in helping the board to see what they needed to do in order to improve what happens at that front desk, what happens with every phone call that comes into the district, what happens with every contact with any of our staff, and how we respond to each and every one of those inquiries by our owner, and the time it took them to get our attention. And that has increased by 100-fold. So that's just one example. The other example has been the
Mr.
quality.
Stewart,
Yeah,
if you
I
could,
will.
just as a courtesy to the other people that are waiting. to
I will.
speak. Yeah, thank you.
I wanted to give a shout out to the current chairs, Bill Shute and the Customer Service Committee. He has an amazing background in customer relations and in marketing and a number of other areas that are important to what has evolved. And of course, Flint Nelson, who I serve with also currently on the Budget Finance Committee, has a tremendous background in engineering as well as, which he also chairs. That expertise that I found in the committees is a boon to the directors. As I sat in the other seat, the seat you're sitting in, it was a pleasure to have them vetting through everything coming up on the next agenda and giving their insight and recommendation. It is so valuable as a director not to have to build expertise in every area, but rather to be, sitting in judgment of the information you're receiving. And that's how you get it. So thank you very
Yes.
much. I would like to see the committee structure say the same. One other comment is all of that time, almost all of that time, there were two directors on committee. I served with Hayden on the customer service committee now for 10 years because I've stayed on the committees after I left the board. And the same thing applied to the other committees. So there's nothing that stops the board from having more than one board representative, but you also need the real expertise that you've recruited. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Next up, we'll hear from Ms. Pam Moss.
Expected so quick.
Hi, guys. Pam Moss. So yeah, I have a big water background. I was actually a title officer and used to do water research. So I get the law and I get the importance. I served on the Budget and Finance Committee for 14 years before I ran for the board. The committees are your arm into the community. The committees, each and every one of the members, whether there's 5 members, 4 members, 6 members, it doesn't matter. They relate to 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 other people in the community. If they're serving on these community committees and being a part of this community, the water community, they also provide a way of information that's very personal. And doing away with the committees is actually cutting off the public, in my never to be humble opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Moss. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Flint Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend the December 9th hearing when this matter was apparently raised and discussed at some length. So I did not have the benefit of hearing the back and forth that went on at that time. I was subsequently notified and I have received a number of emails from committee members on the committees that I serve, and they were not happy with the proposed changes. Go into a lot of the detail on that, but that is what that is. I think what I would have offered to the board is that if there is something going on in the operations of our committees that is a problem for the board, perhaps we could have raised that with the committees in the committees, or at least talk to the committee chairs and got some conversation going rather than having a proposal kind of appear suddenly, which I think disturbed a number of the existing sitting committee members. I, for one, believe that our structure is very sound and very wholesome. We do get members of the public at our committee meetings, engineering and operations, and also budget and finance. We provide them every opportunity to speak. We don't require them generally to submit speaker slips. They just raise their hand and we'll hear from them, because we are ratepayers serving at the direction of the board. And we want to hear from ratepayers who care enough to show up at a meeting. And we have always welcomed them, and we will always continue to welcome them. We do believe, I do believe that the current structure, as this gentleman said, of having committee members appointed by the board means that when we are appointed by the board, it's kind of like we've been touched in a special way, where we have a commitment back to you to serve, to show up, to be present, to do our homework, to ask the hard questions that perhaps you don't have to ask because we do. And so I think in that, the only other thing I would say about this is that I was very unclear from what I read in the handout about whether there would be voting in the committees. Would they vote to make a recommendation to the board or not? Because if you've got different people showing up that are not appointed by the board, just people randomly showing up, are they voting? Are they not voting? That was a question, because I think it's important that the board know who said what and who recommended what. And finally, just to me, it would seem that a committee of ratepayers would probably want a ratepayer as their chairperson. And it is not clear to me what the benefit, what problem we're solving by having a board member be the chairperson. But perhaps there's more information on that. Perhaps there's conversation on that. I don't know. But it would strike me that the committee would want to elect one of their peers as their chairman and have a choice in it rather than have it be unilaterally imposed. I'm always happy to answer any questions. I've enjoyed my service for a long time and hope that I can continue to be of some service to the district. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Next up, we have Rick Carey. Okay, yeah, no problem. I guess we'll take William Shute.
Alrighty, members of the board, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Bill Shute. I've been volunteering at the district for about 7 years. I've been the chair of the Customer Service Communications Committee for about 6 years. I'm a former Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer, and I currently have responsibility for marketing and sales for a technology company out of Minnesota. I'd like to briefly address why it's important to continue our current model of volunteer committees focused on finance, engineering, and communications customer service, and why this approach continues to serve the best interest of the district, our management team, and our ratepayers. First, these committees strengthen the board's ability to govern effectively. Today's water districts face complex financial realities, infrastructure challenges, increased public scrutiny. Our committees work to allow deeper review of critical issues before they reach the full board, helping directors make informed, confident decisions while keeping board meetings focused and efficient. Second, volunteer committees add meaningful expertise and perspective to the management team. These committees often include individuals with professional experience in finance, engineering, public communication, and marketing. They create a constructive forum to ask questions, test assumptions, and explore alternatives, supporting staff without duplicating their role. The result is stronger proposals, better alignment, and fewer surprises at the board level. The strategic communications plan, I think, is a perfect example of what I'm talking about there. Third, this model broadens ratepayer participation in a productive, transparent way. Committees offer an opportunity for community members to engage beyond public comment, contributing directly to issues that matter most to ratepayers, like sound financial stewardship, reliable infrastructure, strong customer service, and clear communication. This strengthens the relationship between the district and the customers. Importantly, these committee involvement also builds trust. When ratepayers see peers participating in thoughtful, structured discussions alongside staff and directors, it reinforces confidence that decisions are being examined carefully and made in the public interest, especially when facing challenging topics like capital investment or rate adjustments. Finally, committees help the board remain strategic. By delegating detailed review to focused, board-appointed committees, the full board can stay centered on oversight, policy, and long-term direction. So in short, the volunteer committee model is not an extra layer. It's a value multiplier. It enhances decision-making, supports management, engages the community, and strengthens public trust. For these reasons, continuing this model is both practical and essential to the district's success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shute. Next up, we'll have Mr. Rodney Smith.
Good afternoon. My name is Rodney Smith and I reside at 35679 Ronald Lane. I want to share my perspective on the workshop today based on more than 40 years of providing professional advisory and representation services to numerous clients in the water industry throughout the Western United States, Australia, and Mexico, as well as my brief experience as a member of the Engineering Operations Committee. My bottom line, the current structure is out of step with the industry's best practices and overly bureaucratic. That doesn't mean you don't need the committees. Instead, the question is how to change their structure. And that's what I want to talk about. Because you've heard a lot of good points about the roles of these committees. I'm not here to say they're wrong. It's about a restructuring proposal. What are industry best practices? To meet their fiduciary obligations to ratepayers, board of directors need full vetting of the alternative courses of action to address organizational challenges supported by relevant facts, information, and rigorous analysis. As one option is selected over others, what are the key drivers and bets about the future that are being made? The future is tough. Anyone who tells you they know the future with certainty is delusional. So it's all about what are our bets, what are we betting on, how do we manage our risks? This framework for decision-making provides the information to support prudent board decision-making. I've seen this approach implemented on numerous occasions by numerous entities. A workshop to provide alternative identified issues for a broad solicitation of ratepayers' perspectives, review of key assumptions and analyses, and articulation of short-term and long-term objectives provides the best setting for ratepayer input for staff consideration as staff prepares the reports to support the board's decision-making. A final key point is that workshops are always led by elected officials. Why? Because voters have selected and voted for these people. Staff, advisors, consultants participate as needed to brief the public on matters under consideration, as well as describe what the current thinking may be and answer questions about their work product. Laying cards on the table enhances the prospect that ratepayers can provide perspectives and information useful for board decision-making. The current structure is overly bureaucratic. Based on my participation in the E&O committee since last spring, the many board structure of standing committees is not conducive to achieving these objectives. As I understand, here are the following key points. Develop a forum to allow more debate and exchange of ideas. By observing the range of discussion, this reduces the risk that a simple transmission of a voting outcome suppresses alternative viewpoints. Committee meetings became more like workshops rather than a dry run of formal board meetings. I think that's the option for you. Finally, board members are participating in the workshops that will increase their accountability to ratepayer. Most of my clients are in rural communities. They can't go to the grocery store without being harassed by their ratepayers. So by putting board members out more in that form of leadership and trying to generate that debate, I think would increase the accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Next up, we have Miss Julie Johnson.
I wish to thank the board as well as the fellow committee members who have come to share their thoughts. It will be your decision, but I encourage the board to consider continuing the current status. I have been honored to be on all three committees since 2018. I started because of my interest in ensuring that students of our area were aware of the industry sectors that water provided. From that beginning, I became very impressed with the committees and the volunteers. The volunteers charge nothing. They are volunteers with no obligation for the district to pay them. I think what's important is that we continue to have an avenue for ratepayers, as was discussed here by many of the members who've been on these committees for quite some time. Since I've been on since 2018, but many have been on even longer than that. We've seen the importance in our community that they come and talk to us, and then we come to the structure of the committees. I also would like to thank everyone for sharing their concerns. As simpler as Bill Stewart, I was on the committees. I then was selected to be on the board. And then when I lost the election, the first thing I thought of was to go back and serve at the volunteer committees, and I have no regrets. I would have a serious regret if we are disbanded and we no longer have the voice of the community through the ratepayers who are volunteering on those committees. So the only other comment I have is in the schedule. I noticed that the communications and customer service schedule was not as monthly as the other two, and I would encourage consideration that continue as well, to have a meeting once a month. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. And I believe the last speaker on item 7 is Rick Carey.
Rick Carey, non-resident avocado grower since '94. Been through some of the changes here, from Dave Seymour to Dudek to Tom Kennedy. So I emphasize some of the things were said. I appreciate you taking me last, because I wanted to hear what everyone else had to say, particularly committee members. And that was very important. And there's been some great comments. The one thing I noted twice, I wrote down 2 people have been comments about disbanding the committees. I think that's a miscommunication. There's no talk about disbanding the committees. You're trying to enhance their effectiveness. So not sure where that, maybe the communication committee can look into that. On that note, to prepare for this, I read the administrative code. And the first thing struck me was the purpose. So, you know, in any organization, mission statements of purpose. I think this is fairly well written. It could be certainly wordsmith, but how well are we meeting those objectives? And is the and I've participated, as Clint will say, quite a bit on certain aspects. And I've had an opportunity to have a conversation here, but I do feel sometimes the structure it looks like a mini board meeting by subcommittee. And not enough time for discussion at some point. So a lot of good points were made. I'm trying to beat the bell here last time I went over. I do like the idea of having 2 directors to committee. I do like the idea of not having the directors that be the chair of the committee, as Clint said, but it's very important for communication to have that liaison, a second set of eyes and ears that participate, and having an elected director participate does give better credence, credibility to the structures. I would also suggest, in doing my research, I tried to see who was on the committees. It's not on the website. That would be a pretty simple fix, to list the committee members and the names, because we have 8,500 plus, correct me, service connections in this district. How many people participate? It's less than 1%. That's the nut we need to crack. I'd also suggest we have 3 committees: communication and customer service. It goes without saying, that runs through them all, but we have 60% of our revenue is ag. I'm going to recommend that we stand up an ag committee, because that's where your money is. We are near extinction and we don't participate a lot for whatever reason. And I would like to really reach out to the ag community, because that would solve a lot of the district's problems if we could do something there. With that, I'm going to close.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. I believe that was our last speaker on item 7, so we will close public comment at this point and bring it back to the board. I want to thank all of the speakers for speaking so eloquently on the subject matter and speaking so respectfully. Also, thank you to the board members for not interrupting and giving them an opportunity to be heard. So thank you very much. So bringing this back to the board, I thought, since obviously we have some very differing opinions on the board, I thought it would be a good idea to just give each board member a chance to sort of state their case and what their thoughts are behind making this change and maybe just go down the line uninterrupted, just give them a chance, each one of us a chance to kind of state our position to the public. And then after that, we'll kind of see where we're at and we'll just go from there. So we'll start at this side with Director Hoffman.
So since I did the proposal, I wrote something down to what I need to do. I ran for this position because I believe in serving our district effectively, listening to ratepayers, applying common sense, and stepping up when things aren't working as they should. I've spent my career managing meetings and participating in committees, so I understand how these processes are supposed to function. After a full year of observing our monthly committee meetings, I've seen firsthand the challenges: limited participation from ratepayers beyond those appointed, overly formal procedures that feel more like mini board sessions with voting and restricted public input per the Roberts rules, and an overall structure that can come across as cumbersome and distant. I recently spoke with a respected ratepayer. He's been to many of our meetings. At a symposium, a person with deep knowledge on key issues facing our district. When I encouraged him to join a committee, he politely declined, saying it felt above his pay grade and better left to others. This isn't isolated. Many ratepayers I've talked to feel intimidated approaching what looks like a formal board setup, especially one shaped by hierarchy. In my professional experience, I led open weekly meetings where attendance varied, sometimes empty, sometimes packed. Low turnout often signaled trust in the process and leadership. The same could apply here. If broader participation is low, it may reflect confidence in us as elected officials to act in ratepayers' best interests. My goal is simple and heartfelt: to better serve Rainbow and our 20,000 ratepayers by making input easier, more inclusive, and more efficient, while preserving the valuable expertise of everyone involved. To address these issues directly, I propose the following updated structure for our standing committees. Create an informal, welcoming environment, chairs in a circle over there, to reduce intimidation and encourage open dialogue. Eliminate strict Roberts rules, time limits on speakers, gavels, and formal voting, allowing freer flow of ideas without procedural barriers. Have 2 board members co-chair each meeting to provide guidance and ensure alignment. Require the co-chairs to deliver clear summaries of discussions, including input from staff, ratepayers, and experts at the full monthly board meeting for transparency and decision-making. From those discussions, a lot of things can go on the consent calendar, so we would have less items on the agenda. Aggressively promote committee invitations through word of mouth, social media, email newsletters, and platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and Nextdoor to boost attendance and awareness. Remove appointed positions for ratepayers, treating all voices equal, as our current policy creates distinctions without differences in participation rights. Improve staff efficiency and district resources by focusing these meetings on gathering genuine input, providing information, and ensuring full transparency for all attendees. I deeply respect and value the dedication and institutional knowledge of our current committee members. This proposal is not intended to diminish your contributions, sideline anyone, or reduce your opportunities to speak. In fact, your input, time, and influence will remain unchanged or even enhanced in a less restrictive setting. Your experience is vital to Rainbow's success, and I genuinely hope you'll all continue participating actively. This change aims to build greater trust, increase meaningful engagement, and make our processes work better for everyone without losing what already functions well. Thank you for your commitment to our district.
Thank you, Director Hoffman. Director Townsend Smith.
Okay, I've been on the Budget and Finance Committee for a few years. Now. I also don't think there's any problem with how the committee is, thank you, is handled. I mean, I really don't. I think staff does some preliminary work on issues, which does make our board meetings more concise with their findings. And if we don't do it that way, and everything comes to the board first, it's got to go back to staff. So I don't see where there's going to be any change there. If we're talking about how we're structuring meetings, I have no problem. My alliance is with the ratepayers. If it means us having meetings in the evening, which we're talking about, so that people that work all day can come and join us, I'm all for it. Everything Lisa said about getting the communication issues out to the ratepayers, so maybe they will be able to participate more, I think is a great idea. So I'm kind of riding the fence here because they actually like the way the committees are being held. I don't really see a big problem here. So if we want to sit around the circle and sing Kumbaya and make it much more formal, I'm for that as well. So my thoughts are, if it's going to be better for ratepayers to show up, and if it's more informal, and that would be a good thing, we should try it. We can always go back to the more formal situation if we want to. Trying to think if I left anything of my thoughts out. But I think it's interesting that people have been trying to work on this and think of how we can get more of our people to show up, whether it's formal or informal, whether it's in the day or the evening. I'm for the change. I really am. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Hamilton.
Oh, you're going to go last.
Well, perhaps.
I'm with Patty. I think there's been a lot of good ideas presented here today that we could actually implement under the current structure without having to revamp things. I have a serious concern about loss of ratepayer participation by going to a 2-director chaired committee. Evidence shows that those existing, if you call them best practices, ratepayers don't participate. I have a survey here that was conducted over 10 districts that have that structure. And the general comment is we rarely see a ratepayer at a committee meeting. So the fact that we have a formal ratepayer participation structure guarantees us at least some input. If we can open up the formality or reduce the formality of that existing structure, maybe we would get some additional ratepayer participation. But to go to what's been proposed, I think we'll lose all ratepayer participation. So I'm against changing the existing structure, but tweaking it to see if we can improve it.
Thank you, Director Hamilton. Director Mack.
First, I'd like to say thank all of you that's showing up, taking the time, giving your opinions. Also to thank all of you that are participating or in the past or present on the committees. It's time that you're willing to give your input and thoughts to help the board and this district to be a better organization. I would also like to say that going to these conferences, I talk to other directors and other agencies. When I tell them about the unique committees that we have, they're very interested because they don't have anything like that. So I think we are unique in that way. And I am, for one, just to be out there and being honest with all of you, I've never been on the committee. In 9 years, I've never been on one, so I can't say yay or nay on how they're run. But I will tell you that I appreciate like when Flint comes every month and gives us updates, I really rely on that gentleman, on his ideas and thoughts of the ratepayers. I many times went into more conversation, for example, with Flint and asked him why. I do feel it's very important for this directors here to listen to the ratepayers. I think that's huge. And I am for one, when a ratepayer questions some of the things that the board's decisions are, I always come back that, hey, we have committees that you might be interested in. And in the 9 years that I've been on this board, I can only remember twice that we did not follow what the committee's chair have recommended us. And so I personally do not want to change. I want a ratepayer to lead the committee. I want the committee chair of those committees to be a ratepayer, and I really appreciate when they come to these meetings and let us know their thoughts and ideas. One of the biggest things I took from today, which I'm really surprised that we've never thought of this, and I thank the two gentlemen from Ag. We need an Ag committee. That's a hell of an idea. I don't know how we've ever missed that. They are very important to this agency, and they need to have a committee to have their voice heard. And I think that's a great idea. And I'm signing me up for that one because my background is somewhat a bit of Ag. And so I'd love to go on that one. I'd volunteer for. But again, thank all of you for taking here. I really appreciate your time and thoughts. And I am one that would like to keep the structure it is. If we need to make it a hybrid and we can make things a little bit better. And the following thing I'd like to also say, how we get the ratepayers to be more involved, that I don't know. I don't know. I do think someone made mention about directors need to get out there more. I think that's huge, like the Avocado Festival and stuff like that. I think when a director's out there, it helps, especially when you get to talk to one-on-one with the ratepayers to see where they're coming from. So again, yeah, thank all of you again, and I'm leaning towards keep it the way it is, but I don't mind tweaking, and definitely we need to form an Ag committee as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Mack. Yeah, with respect to the Ag Committee, maybe what we're really trying to do is open up a process where Ag can participate in the existing committees, because the existing committees apply the same to Ag as they do to all the other residents. But that's just something to consider. We're not in any way, or I should say, at least I'm not in any way suggesting we do away with committees. Where I came from, for 25 years, we had very, very robust and very effective subcommittees at City of Corona. And I've seen how those committees function, and I've seen how the committee system functions here. And I'm just convinced that a less formal, more inclusive structure would benefit the majority of ratepayers in the district. I was elected to make changes that I thought would benefit ratepayers, and in my opinion, I think that this process needs to be modified in a way that makes it easier, less obtrusive for ratepayers to participate. And I'll explain my reasoning. Ratepayers should have the opportunity to represent themselves, not have their views represented by another layer of sort of self-selected board surrogates. I think that's sort of problematic in terms of creating that separation between the board who was elected by the people and actually being able to interface with them in an informal setting. I'm a big tent person, and I just think that more inclusive processes with less barriers to citizen input is really what we should be seeking. Really, the two main reasons for my support in making a change would be, one, I feel that the current committee structure is very restrictive. I think it's highly selective and bureaucratic. And quite frankly, I think that it creates a lot of barriers to citizen participation. The other issue that I have problems with is that I do think it creates a high degree of unnecessary staff time, and I'll explain why. With regard to being restrictive, I just fundamentally have concerns when I feel like there's too many gatekeepers between the public and the elected board. Right now, we have a committee structure that basically limits in a community of 20,000 plus people to 7 people to serve as, quote, the advocate ratepayers for the residents. Why we have some arbitrary number limiting how many people can actually sit and participate in committee meetings just doesn't make any sense to me. The other problem I have with it is that it doesn't really balance representation within the community. If you recall, we have districts that each of us represent. The reason why we have districts is because it's intended to represent the demographics which are unique to all those different districts. Committee system doesn't do that by restricting and selecting who we're putting on the committee. I'll give you an example. For example, Budget and Finance Committee could be, hearing matters regarding rate structures. And for all I know, 6 of those, 7 of those members could all be residential ratepayers. Well, where's the voice of the agriculture and the commercial ratepayers? If the committee's locked down to 7 and we've got 7 residential ratepayers, it sort of locks out other people, and we really shouldn't have that. And by the same token, say if you're on the E&O committee and the committee's debating an issue regarding a large sewer project, and all the committee members are on septic, they're actually making decisions and recommendations on behalf of ratepayers that are actually paying into the system. So we really don't have those safeguards to see really who's being represented when it comes to those issues. The other issue that I have is it just seems very highly selective. We have these sort of attendance requirements where if a citizen wants to participate in the ratepayer advocacy process through the committees, they have to attend 3 meetings and sort of be evaluated by the committee. And if the committee, and they're evaluating the committee's evaluating them. Then if the committee, and they decide that they want to be part of the committee, then the committee votes on them to become part of the committee. And then after that, it goes to the board. And then the board decides to pick their own ratepayer advocates. So they make the choice on who they want to be the ratepayer advocates rather than just inviting any ratepayer to come and be their own advocate. And I kind of have a little problem with how that's done, because it does seem to be fraught with the possibility of highly selective processes by the board to decide who gets to be the ratepayer advocates. And then if the individual gets approved by the committee and the board, now they have to file with the Fair Political Practices Commission and become subject to California state law and the California Ethics Code. And it's like, the way I see it is, you've got a soccer mom or a working dad, and they have an item that might be on a committee agenda. They want to just participate and give their input. And yet there's this entire bureaucratic process that they have to go through just to simply be heard. So the other issue I have too is, in speaking of why I think these need to be informal and moderated by board members, is that these meetings are all run under Robert's Rules of Order and parliamentary procedure. We have a very formal process, gavels, podiums. It just tends to create what I feel is some intimidation maybe for the public to come. And maybe since we've been running meetings this way for the past 20 years and we haven't seen a lot of participation, maybe that's why. Maybe it's just too formal and people don't feel that they have the ability to come and speak and participate in the process. I just think that they should be informal, and I think that elected members should be the moderators of that meeting. And speaking personally from someone who was elected, I want to avail myself to my ratepayers. I don't want a layer between me and my ability to listen to what ratepayers have to say, to listen to what their input is, and to give them answers right from the horse's mouth. So I think that's a good thing. And again, just to reiterate, there was some comments about the committees going away and people not being welcomed or invited. And I just want to dispel that, because the fact of the matter is everyone who spoke here today is very valuable to the overall process. And by modifying this process doesn't mean that your views, your experience, your background isn't welcomed. It's just changing the process to try to welcome more people into the process. So the other issue I wanted to talk a little bit about is staff time. And as someone said, we have basically 4 board meetings a month. That's 1 board meeting a week. And having spent, 25 years as a staff member, I know how much time it takes to prepare for formal board meetings. In this case, formal committee meetings. With the amount of presentation materials, the staff reports, the PowerPoint slides, sometimes speakers. It can be an enormous amount of preparation time for this type of formal meeting. And then sometimes, in fact, I've been in some meetings where they've lasted 3 or 4 hours, and I've looked out in the audience and saw 4 or 5 staff members there the entire time. And I'm thinking to myself, as an elected official, maybe these staff members are in these meetings way too much and way too long. I mean, labor is the most expensive part of our budget, certainly our fixed budget. And when we've got 5 or 6 staff members in meetings 4 times a month for 4 hours, my thought is they should be out in the field. They should be at their desks doing their job, accomplishing the work the ratepayers are paying to do. And for whatever it's worth, a lot of the elections were built around the cost of water, and all of that factors into how to labor costs. So it's incumbent upon me to look at ways to try to make that labor more efficient. I guess it was said that just about every other public agency in the state of California runs meetings with directors moderating the boards. I don't think they're all wrong. I don't think we're the only ones that are right. I get it. I think that my approach is that an informal meeting would help increase participation. There's a lot of things that we could do to try to get the word out, to try to encourage people to participate. But in my past experience, I had committee meetings. I sat in committee meetings where in the city of Corona, where sometimes we had no members, sometimes we had a few members, sometimes we had numerous members of the public show up. It all really was driven based on what the agenda was and what interest the public had, not necessarily forcing them to come to a meeting and be an anointed ratepayer advocate, but rather opening it up so if there are interest items for them, they can come and speak freely in an informal setting. So that's my rationale on why I think we should modify this process. I think it's a good idea. Like I said, we've run this process for 20 years, but again, elections are because sometimes ratepayers want change. They want to see things done differently. And so I do support this change. And I would ask anybody on the dais if they have any further comments or.
I just would like to say, make it very clear, we are not talking about not having committees. Okay, which I heard a couple of people think that that was the case. If anything, I think we've all come to the conclusion really quick up here, we want an agricultural committee. I, for one, are big time support of that. I also think Carlene at the last board meeting talked about the communications and the customer service committee possibly not having to meet every month. So, I'm just thinking, because there's only 5 board members here, and if 2 of them are going to be on a committee, possibly we could have communications meet 1 month or seasonal. that Carlene kind of suggested, and then have the ag people the following month or something, and maybe not have to do it monthly. But I am totally in support of adding that committee. And, you know, it's not like we're going to work less. Michael Mack is going to have to join us on a committee. Thank you.
Anything from any of the other board members? Well, we closed public comment, Rick. We probably don't want to
Open it up.
open it up. I think we've heard a fair amount. And I think we're
Something new.
okay. Please go ahead.
So a lot of discussion of staff. I also did process consultation for major industry for a lot. I would like to hear from the staff. They're integral to this process. They're in between, and they're probably the most reluctant to speak up. So either anonymously or find a vehicle or a path so we get staff input as we tweak this process. And I realize how difficult that may be for someone to put their name to it. So just encourage some kind of input if they're reluctant to criticize.
Thank you, Rick. Any other comments from the board?
Sorry. Sorry. I wish I would have listened to more of the information ahead of time and waited like Rick, so I had a little better understanding of the topic. But one of the main concerns seems to be public participation. I've walked into that lobby for multiple times over the years and saw a stack of meeting notices on the side that I finally filled out at the direction of one of the staff. And I get a friendly reminder from Therese every month when email, when meetings and so forth are coming up. I think there's a presumption that people out there with all the stuff going on, with all the internet activity and so forth, are basically sitting and monitoring Rainbow Water meetings, where I think a friendly reminder of meetings that are coming up, maybe with a shortened agenda or whatever, would increase. I mean, somebody mentioned switching the time to later in the day and the like. I think those two practical solutions may end up increasing public participation.
Thank you. Okay, well, obviously, we have some differing views on the board. That's democracy at work, I guess. I don't know how we resolve it, but I guess at some time we just have to fish or cut bait and put it to a vote and see where we're at with this.
Can we do this multi level type thing, or take A, B, and C? For example, can we vote on the change of time? We're going to do our board meetings in the evening. We have discussed that. Committee
We
meetings,
have that on, well, the.
committee meetings.
That's
Okay.
agenda, that's item 8.
So that's
No.
done.
No,
No,
we're gonna
it's
be
not done.
talking about that
Okay.
next.
So next would be the formality of the meetings. Can we discuss
Yeah,
that?
I mean, I can put forth a motion and we can just see where it goes. And if it gets voted down and there's another motion that wants to modify it at either today or at a different time, we can do that. But I think at some point, since obviously I respect Director Mack, I just respect Director Hamilton's position, I just respect all your positions. But at some time, we have to just move it forward and see kind of how the democratic process works and see where we're at on it. So
One thing someone just mentioned, I think is a very good idea. I wouldn't mind hearing from staff. What is their thought? I mean, we're just getting more in the weeds, but what is their thoughts about this?
Yeah, I mean, I shared a little bit at the board, at the board meeting in December. You know, I think there is two sides to this. I mean, I think there is two sides to this. From staff's perspective, if you're just talking about staff efficiencies, you know, probably at some point, yeah, the meetings will probably be shorter. I would think with a less informal and that kind of process. I think that's probably true. As far as preparation time, I think there might even be a little bit of disagreement there. And might be maybe my lack of experience, right? But I've done it one, two different ways. I've had committees, made up of really an entire board. And the way we do it here. Personally, I've never really prepared differently for either. And I think I think staff kind of agrees with that. Just, we've had our conversations here, but internally as well. So this would be a new process for me too. I'm not sure. Again, if the preparation, those kind of things, would be it. But really, I mean, I think I can speak for all the staff on this. It's really, this is up to the board, how you want to do it. We're gonna prepare the way we prepare. We're gonna, bring the same good business that we try to bring all the time. How that sausage gets made, it really is board jurisdiction, and we leave it to you. I'm not trying to cop out. I tried to give you a little bit of what we're, what are our thoughts on efficiencies and things like that. But honestly, it's up to the board, and we'll take that direction.
Thank you. Well, hearing no other comment, I'm going to propose a motion, ask for a roll call vote. And my motion is to amend the administrative code to simplify the standing committee process by appointing 2 board members to moderate each of the 3 standing committee meetings, and open up participation to any and all ratepayers in the district to participate in the committee process without approval or restrictions. And I would be looking for a second.
Second.
Motion of Director Irvine, seconded by Director Townsend Smith. We could get a roll call vote on that?
Certainly. Director Hamilton,
No.
Director Townsend Smith,
Yes.
Director Hoffman,
Yes.
Director Mack,
No.
Director Irvine.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-2.
Thank you, everybody who attended the meeting and spoke so eloquently. We thank you for coming, and we will move on to item 8, discussion and determine regular board meeting day and time.
Yes, so also at the December board meeting, we brought a proposed calendar. It had
2 changes.
yeah, a couple of changes that were requested. One was adding back the November board meeting, which we've provided a couple of alternatives for that.
Okay, 3.
And then also
I'm sorry. I've got a question relative to the action. With the approval of that motion, does that mean that we won't have to submit the paperwork as we have?
Yes, it does.
That's correct.
Okay.
I'm not sure what paperwork you're referring to.
Form 700.
Yep, the Form 700.
Be
That's
leaving
correct.
office, leaving office statement.
That's correct.
The statement, Teresa.
All right. Yeah, thank you for the clarification.
So we also discussed the meeting times and potentially desire to go to a later board meeting, again, to allow additional, people who work during the day to attend. We put a couple of schedules together. As far as and we're fine with the November meeting. I think I think we all learned a valuable lesson at the December meeting that there's a lot of business that goes on even at the very end of the year. And yeah, we had a very long board meeting because of that, a lot of action items. So I like that change. That in itself will drive a change in the admin code as well. So we're going to have to bring this back at the January board meeting to actually finalize everything, but wanted to get your input here. The option to move to the nights is really best accomplished. And Therese, I give a lot of credit to Therese. She spent a lot of time kind of looking at a whole bunch of different alternatives, different nights, different times, different, things. And it seemed like just switching from the 4th Tuesday to the 3rd Tuesday. So just moving the board meeting up a week, kind of eliminated all the conflicts. It actually even worked better with a lot of the conference schedules and things like that. So So that seems to be, you know, if we want to move all the meetings to the nighttime, that does appear to be the best option. We put kind of a draft schedule in front of you. We're still kind of looking at how the committees, you know, how we would schedule those committees, mostly just to facilitate you know, financial reports being done and things like that. So where to place each of the committees. So again, we'll be finalizing that part, you know, as we move to the January board meeting. So as far as the nighttime meetings go, I think that looks like our best option. You know, it's not a radical change. It's just, yeah, moving it out. I think probably most people won't notice. So that's kind of where we stand with all that.
I worry about is traffic and stuff for people. I mean, I guess 1 o'clock's not that convenient either, but I'm just like.
We can give it a try.
Yeah, we did some research too on just, you know, some of the other districts, you know, some hold them in the mornings and things like that.
Jake,
go ahead.
If I could just interrupt for a second, we do have a speaker on this item, Miss Julie Johnson, and I'd like to ask her to come to the podium and hear her comments. Thanks.
Thank you. I understand the intent of changing the time meetings, but I would encourage the board to consider the safety that is existing for night meetings at this time. I don't know if the general manager has considered this, but as someone who has come here in the evening, it's very dark. So I would encourage you to consider making sure of the safety and liability issues before possibly doing night meetings. It could be even waiting to the time zone change so it's light to start, inviting people to come in the evening. But that is my request as a ratepayer for the safety and the liability of the district. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up too, because I did hear that. Yeah, in the last couple of days, and actually on my way out yesterday, I took a look. I you know, I guess recognize it is a little dark, but leaving last night, it actually is. There's just kind of one big light over kind of on this side as you leave, but it really only covers kind of a quarter of the parking lot or so. There's a light over there by the driveway gate. Oh, I think that's motion. Is that motion activated or it comes on? That comes on at night.
The one I think that just comes on at night.
Yeah, just comes on at night. So we, you know, given that concern, we probably should look. I mean, we might have to do some improvements to the parking lot to.
The cars kind of park far away. I don't know how comfortable I would be walking unless we're all walking together, you know, but
Yeah.
not like we live in a dangerous area, but
Yeah.
Well, you also have the liability associated with tripping and falling and that parking lot is not even. And
Yeah.
I've been here at night. I don't think it would be conducive to encouraging people and we'd have a high liability risk
yeah.
associated with a night meeting. And that means also we incur additional expense to put lighting in and it's not cheap.
I don't care when the meeting is. I'll be here.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, so the other option is that
I
we-
like Julie's suggestion is keep the current time until we get to daylight savings and it's not dark at the proposed time of the closure of the meeting. And getting here is obviously going to be less of a problem. That if we're running meetings to 7:30 or 8 at night, even in daylight savings time, it's an issue potentially.
Have temporary lights, you know, construction guys have lights up or whatever.
You can. I mean, they're not.
Just for like, oh, the meeting is going to get out around.
Or we could use solar lights.
They're not very bright though.
Yeah.
But then you could have 2 of your trucks.
Yeah.
Go drive
You're
your
adding
truck over
to staff-
there.
You're adding to staff time to increase, to deploy and take them down. I mean,
Well, I meant like the trucks, you know, on. I don't care. Just saying.
It's not a big deal for me. I mean,
We can keep them at 1 o'clock too. I mean,
I'm fine either way. I forgot where this was proposed. I think it was Director Mack that might have proposed it. And I don't have a real opinion one way or the other. My only thought would be that we would open up a little bit more possibility for, once again, trying to be open with attendance for folks that are working all day or have kids in school and need to would have some reason to want to attend one of these board meetings, just very hard during the day. So I would just simply agree with Director Mack on that standpoint. But if it's going to create other issues regarding safety and there's concerns in that regard, it's not that big of an issue to me that I'm, I'm willing to keep it where it's at. So.
I would love to keep it the way it is.
Okay.
But it's gonna get more ratepayers.
Oh, you mean the 5 o'clock one?
Yeah.
What about 9 o'clock? You've dropped your kids off at school. I'm just,
I mean,
I thought you meant at night.
yeah.
you know what I mean? I don't know if Alfred could get down here, but I'm saying 9 o'clock. Because 5 o'clock's practice. I'm making dinner. Like there's no way a housewife's coming or someone that works. So 9 o'clock, at least if I don't work.
Yeah.
Have a job, at least I might come.
Yeah, that's how Eastern does their meetings in the morning. Rancho does their meetings in the morning. That's, I'm not sure it drives ratepayer participation,
Right.
but
I'll do whatever you guys.
yeah. But I'm not sure the night meetings. I think a lot of agencies have tried that too, and
Gone away.
yeah,
Rancho
I
tried
don't
it
know.
for a while. And went
Yeah,
back.
and then went back.
Maybe
Yeah.
1 o'clock, just because we've had it. We haven't had a lot of people, but their kids are still in school. You could come at a lunchtime and take it if you really saw something on there you really wanted to talk about. Yeah.
Well, are you asking for direction?
Well,
I'm not-
general, but we'll bring it back. We can bring it back at the January board meeting with the 1 o'clock is kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Do
Well,
you
can I
want
make
a
a
proposed
comment?
motion on that?
Oh,
make
The
one.
date on here is wrong.
Okay.
It really, if we're doing the third Tuesday, it would be the January 20th, not the 27th.
right. Well, we weren't going to change the January meeting
Okay,
because it's already kind of set.
got it.
Yeah, it's already been kind of
Set.
public.
Because everything
Published.
else is the third.
Right.
I mean, if staff is looking for direction on this, so we have some clarity at the January meeting, so they're not in the dark and we're kind of repeating ourselves. I think Director Hamilton would like to make a motion and we can go about it that way.
Can I say one thing? Paul, if you looked at the minutes, I believe what I suggested was not all the time. I said 1 or 2 meetings in the year we would have in the evening, just to say we had. And then you could actually see, did it make any change? And so hypothetically,
To explore it.
you could
For-
stay at
for-
1, and then in the summertime when you go, maybe 1 or 2 meetings in the evening.
Yeah, I think that's disruptive though. I think that if
Okay.
that anything that discourages people because they're
There's
not
no
quite sure
consistency.
when the meetings are.
No
So
consistency.
I understand the point you're trying to make, but I would not be in favor of
Yeah.
that. So.
My proposal is that we keep the meeting time set at 1 o'clock. And we direct staff to come back with exploring the issues associated with liability, et cetera, for doing evening meetings.
I'll second that and motion by Director Hamilton, second by Director Irvine. All in favor of that motion, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Very good. Do you need any more?
No.
Information on item 8? Okay, very good. Last item is item 9, election of officers. We just have one item on that. At the last meeting, I was voted to become president for the board and preside. My issue is that having looked at my travel schedule, it's unfortunate, but several of the meetings I'm going to have to attend remote. And I do not think that that is in the best interests of the district by trying to chair officiate meetings via Zoom. So with that, I am going to step aside in that role and I'd be looking for nominations for a replacement for
Can
that
I
role.
ask what is the president and vice president's role? You guys have been in that. What do you do as a president and vice president besides lead meetings?
You can answer that.
The president
Longest.
is basically charged with chairing the meeting.
Okay, so no knowledge.
Water
Water knowledge.
No, not necessarily.
You have a lot of water knowledge. You do.
It's basically moderating the meetings and like
Moderating.
you can't do those via Zoom. So
Yeah.
if someone who has a schedule this year that seems to be more accommodating, to physically being here for the majority of the meetings, that would be, I think, the best solution for the district.
But my suggestion, stay as the president, but while you're gone, I mean, usually the vice president steps in, like when
Right.
Mr. Hamilton couldn't make it a
Max
couple meetings ago.
excited.
I
So,
understand that, but the thing is
It's more than.
it's more than just one or two meetings.
oh,
It could be 5 or 6 meetings. And
Oh.
that's just the way my travel schedule lined up based on some of the meeting changes that we've just proposed. So with that, I would nominate Director Hamilton to be president for this next year. I would be looking for a second on that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you. You're back. Can't get away from the gavel.
Okay, well, that concludes item 8, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
Mhm.
motion passes, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
President.
You didn't vote.
I don't think we have to vote
That was
adjourn,
pretty
right?
intense.
Usually it's just a hit.
Usually-
It's a hit, yeah.
Thank you for turning the hair on.
Oh, no,
Maybe.
no, I think the consensus was that.
I didn't want it to be back in. Like, I'm big.